Today we're talking about the long forgotten NEX line of Sony mirrorless cameras. Today we're looking at three of the NEX-5 models. We have the NEX-5, the NEX-5N, and the NEX-5R. There's also the NEX-5T, which we're not going to talk about in this video because it is essentially the NEX-5R with the NFC connectivity capability. All of these cameras are 10 to 13 years old and can only be found used on sites like eBay or Facebook Marketplace. When purchasing used cameras, it's all about timing. I actually have a video about the best strategies for purchasing on eBay. I'll link that in the description down below. But you have to make sure you're not overpaying for these kinds of cameras. People list them sometimes a little bit too high, and it's all about timing the market right to get the best price. So we're just going to focus on these three today, starting with the similarities and then move into some of the differences for each of the camera models. First and foremost, the body design are pretty much the same on all three of these models. There are some variations, but not enough to spend too much time talking about it. All of these cameras utilize the same battery. It's the Sony NPF-W50, which is the camera battery we've seen in a lot of the A6000 series and even some of the older A7 series cameras. You have to have a ton of these batteries on hand, and thankfully they're really cheap. They've come down in price a lot over the years, so you can literally pick up a 3-pack for like $20. The SD card slot also loads from the bottom on all of these cameras, and they all shoot on the Sony E-Mount mirrorless lens system. They are all APS-C size, but you can of course use full frame glass. You don't have to just buy the APS-C lenses if you want to invest in high quality glass like the full frame lineup in case you're going to upgrade one day to the full frame system. These all take just the native Sony E-Mount, so you can use any of your full frame or APS-C mounts on all of these camera models. And the final similarity is the menu system. The menu system is about 2 iterations previous to what we have now in some of the new Sony mirrorless cameras like the A7S series and the FX3, etc. So this is even before the menu system of the A6000 and the A7 III. I'm not in love with the menu, but it's fine. It gets the job done, and you can obviously use it to change your camera settings. Okay, that's where the similarities end. Now let's talk about each of these cameras individually, starting with the baseline model, which is the Sony NEX-5. I bought this camera on eBay for $89 with a buy it now feature, and they can be found typically between anywhere as little as $50 all the way up to $150 or so. You can also look on Facebook Marketplace. I know there's private sellers who often list the NEX-5 specifically, so be sure to check your local listings on Facebook Marketplace for this guy. Again, this is the baseline model sporting the 14.2 megapixel sensor. It's a pretty old sensor, but it gets the job done, and I've taken a lot of high quality photos with this camera, some behind the scenes stuff on set, and I actually really like the way this performs for photo capabilities. You can of course shoot in the RAW file format and edit RAW files just fine, and this camera gives you RAW plus JPEG capabilities as well. With this camera model, you get a tilt screen. It doesn't even tilt all the way up. It kind of just folds out this far. It's not a great flip screen. It's enough to be able to kind of shoot below your eye level and be fine, but that's all you're gonna get for the tilt screen on this guy. Where this camera does not shine, however, is in video mode. There is no manual video functionality in this camera at all. You can only choose between the AVC HD and an MP4 file format, which of course you would choose the AVC HD. That's a better file format. But then you can't choose anything else. You can't choose your frame rates, which it only shoots in 24 frames a second. You can't choose frame rates, no 60p, no manual video settings, so you can't choose your ISO or your aperture or your shutter speed. You can't set those manually as you're recording video. And frankly, the video on this camera looks pretty terrible. I would not use this for video. I would only use this for high quality stills images paired with quality Sony glass. Okay, that's the NEX-5. Now moving one model up to the NEX-5N. The NEX-5N I bought off of Facebook Marketplace from a private seller for $100, and it also came with a kit lens and the flash unit. So this was an absolute steal for that $100 price point. Starting with a brand new sensor, a 16.1 megapixel sensor, which actually I can tell a difference here. It is a marginal increase, but I think the sensor performance is a lot better, especially for the video capabilities. And that's the first thing I want to talk about, is how great the video actually looks coming out of this camera. You get high quality 1080p video at both 24 frames a second and 60p, which this camera absolutely did not have at all. So you can get some reliable slow motion out of this guy, as well as full manual video controls. The biggest drawback with the NEX-5 is really that lack of manual video control. So you get it here with a little bit of a better sensor. The 5N does inherit this kind of terrible flip up screen that's like it's like halfway up. I don't love this flip up design. But as far as image quality and video specs, the 5N is definitely worth the upgrade if you can find it over the NEX-5. And finally, we have the NEX-5R, which definitely is my favorite NEX-5 series camera right now. The NEX-5R cost me $104 off of eBay, which is on the lower end of what this camera usually costs. This again sports the 16.1 megapixel sensor, which I believe is actually the exact same sensor the Sony NEX-5N has, so you're gonna get similar results for both photo and video capabilities. But the 5R has a couple of key upgrades which make it great for video creators. The first being you get 3 changes to the physical body of the camera, which I think actually help a lot for video creators. You get a dedicated ISO button on the back of the camera. You also get a function button up top, which none of these other cameras have. And you get an extra control dial up top for adjusting your aperture or shutter speed while you're recording video or taking photos. And thankfully in this model, they integrated a fully flip up screen, which is great for being able to record yourself vlog style, or even being able to record yourself and set up the camera on a tripod so you can view the back of the screen. These other cameras really lack the ability to be able to even see what you're recording, or if an overheat warning comes on or something, you'll never know. Versus this guy, you can actually see when you're recording yourself. You know if it's in focus, you know if it's focus hunting. I can't speak highly enough of having the flip up screen to be able to see yourself when you're filming. So although the 5R in many senses is the same camera as the 5N as far as specs are concerned, you get a lot of design improvements that are more on par with some of the high quality Sony mirrorless cameras. And again, there is the NEX-5T, which is essentially the NEX-5R, but it has the outdated NFC wireless transmission where you can kind of connect your phone to the camera to send files between. This really is an outdated system, so it's not necessarily worth the upgrade. But if you can find the 5R or the 5T, just know they're basically the same camera. And that's kind of the comparison between the camera models. Again, I really think that if you're a video creator, the NEX-5R is going to be your best option. A step down from that is the 5N, and I think it's totally fine to use, and the image quality is really great coming out of this camera for video creators. If you're just a photographer and are not concerned about video, the NEX-5 is a great option and usually can be found anywhere from $50 to $100, so it's definitely your cheapest option and a great entry point into the Sony E-Mount mirrorless lens system. Thank you guys so much for taking time to watch this video. Feel free to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I got a ton more videos you can watch right here on the channel. Thanks so much, guys. Much love.